Hello, and welcome back to week number 11 of the Smart Start Recreational Therapy Insights YouTube channel. My name is Nathan Lemaster, your host from SMART CEUs Hub, and I've enjoyed going through this series with you so far. Last week, we talked about coping strategies and ways to deal with stress. Today, what we're going to be talking about is community reintegration strategies. So for our clients that have come saw us at a hospital, how do they bridge that gap back to the community that they are part of? So without further ado, I'd like to just jump right in. So let's do this. All right, let's define what community reintegration is. Community reintegration refers to the process of helping individuals transition from the clinical settings back to everyday life. Okay, so whether that be at home, work, or recreational spaces that they participate in. Why does it matter, you might ask? Okay, so many clients feel isolated after experiencing some major health or disability. The transition from structured care to independence can feel overwhelming for a lot of people, especially if they were so used to going to groups, having a doctor, a nurse, a therapist with them at all times. So how do they get back into everyday life? Okay, and then without the proper support, clients may struggle with confidence to be able to participate. Accessibility barriers that they might face, so things that are in the community that aren't in the hospital, and adapting to their new limitations, things that maybe they are newly dealing with. Okay, so who might benefit from this type of community reintegration? Individuals that are recovering from traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, they might have just got out of surgery, and they are learning how to adapt to their new physical, cognitive limitations and being able to adapt to the communities that they live in. Veterans coming back from the military. So sometimes, that transition between working as a military personnel coming back to the civilian life, there is this night and day difference for a lot of them, being able to adapt to what the traditional life is for everybody else that isn't in the military. Okay, so another one might be older adults that are transitioning from going through rehabilitation back into everyday life. So they might have been part of skilled nursing or assisted living, and now let's say they're learning how to be independent again, and they might need some support systems and things put in place that can help them to be successful. Okay, and then anyone feeling socially or having environmental barriers to community participation. That could be, somebody coming back from transitioning out of the behavioral health sector. So let's say if they were in there and they are learning how to be independent after having some sort of chronic illness, and they are learning how to adapt to society. So basically how everybody else deals with life, and they are learning how to do that. So our role as recreational therapists is to help clients navigate these challenges and ensuring they have the tools, confidence, and support to reclaim their roles in society. So that's what we're doing. Okay, some key strategies for community reintegration. So how do we successfully reintegrate clients into their communities? So here are some effective strategies that I can come up with. So one, we identify client interests and goals. So we start by asking, what activities make you feel most like yourself? So when you're not here at the clinical setting, what types of activities would you be doing when you are out in the world and being independent? We're going to use leisure assessments to determine social, recreational, and professional interests. So those things that matter to the client. We're going to ensure goals are person-centered, practical, and motivating for the client. So just because they're not going to be with us after they leave the clinical setting sometimes recreational therapists actually might work in community reintegration full-time, and their goal is to bridge that gap from the hospital to the individual's everyday life. Which, in that case, we're still working with goals and things that matter to the client. What kind of things might be practical and motivating for that client? We're going to address any physical barriers to participation. So that might be accessibility needs. So let's say they're in a wheelchair now, and how are they going to be able to participate in the things that they enjoy? That could also be transportation, getting to and from events and different types of things that they might be part of. And then any adaptive equipment that they might need to be able to participate. So sometimes, let's say that they were interested in soccer and then they had a stroke and they are no longer able to walk. But we're introducing them to the game of Powerball, where people are actually in wheelchairs that are like rugby wheelchairs, and they have this bar in front that acts as a lever, which acts as a foot to shoot the ball. Okay, so we might need to introduce them to this type of equipment so they can participate in Powerball if that is something they're wanting to do. Okay, so social barriers they might face as well. We're going to help them build self-confidence in those settings through role-playing, peer support groups, and volunteer work so they can get their feet wet, so to speak. Okay, and then cognitive barriers. We're going to use memory aids, simplified instructions, and structured routines for clients with cognitive impairments. Okay, then we're going to provide real world practice. So we're going to organize community outings into the life that they would be going into when they leave the clinical setting so that they can get used to it. Maybe, for instance, when I was working in behavioral health, we had clients that potentially, after long-term staying with us in the behavioral health setting, we're going to be able to potentially rehabilitate into society. And sometimes things like being in a line at the mall. For instance, I had this one patient who decided that he would just cut the whole line, go to the front, and then he said something really inappropriate to the workers. It was at an Asian food restaurant, and the person up front happened to not be Asian, and he decided that he was going to mention that. He was going to say, hey, you're not Chinese, and learning how to be appropriate in those settings to where, if he was out on his own, that might not be the way to handle things. That might be a way to cause conflict. And also not cutting the line if you see a line for a specific thing that you're wanting to take part in. Those are social skills, things that people do on a day-to-day basis that they might need to learn. Okay, so we're also going to possibly teach public navigation. So let's say they use the bus system and they're learning how to use the public transit system to figure out how to get to the grocery store, how to get to the places they want to go. We might help them with that. We might conduct mock social interactions to boost their confidence. So we might sit them down and say, okay, so now that you are potentially going to be doing this is something you might run into. What is the most appropriate way to handle this situation? And we might go through an improv situation of dealing with that so that they get more used to that type of interaction. Okay, so we're going to collaborate with community resources. So when they leave, these are the community resources that they might take part with. Okay, so that could be local businesses, recreational centers, and support groups that they might take part in. We're going to introduce clients to adaptive sports leagues. So let's say they want to be part of a certain sport. So we might refer them to a sports league that uses adaptive equipment that they might want to participate in. Senior centers for seniors, right? In community education programs. So like, let's say they just need to learn more, and that might be in their community centers affiliated with the YMCA or Parks and Rec. Okay, partner with disability advocacy organizations to address long-term accessibility concerns. So, for instance, where I live in Tyler, Texas, someone might come back from being rehabilitated at, for physical rehabilitation, and their house might not be accessible for them to be able to do everyday things. So, for instance, there's this group called the AMBUCs. Basically, what they do is they build ramps for people to be able to get to and out of their houses. And so this group might be something that we might refer them to so that they have a way to do their everyday life once they leave the hospital. Okay, we're going to build independence and gradual exposure. So we're not going to just throw everything at them all at once. Might be we're going to start small and then we're going to work our way up to pure social interaction that is unscripted. So we might do some manageable steps, then gradually increase participation. We're going to encourage structured goal setting. So such as visit the local park twice this week for 20 minutes each time. That could be the goal. Track progress and adjust interventions as needed. Community reintegration isn't just about getting out of the house. It's about rebuilding confidence, fostering independence, and improving overall well-being. All right, now let's talk about some recreational therapy interventions for community reintegration. So, recreational therapy offers some amazing hands-on experience for clients that are wanting to rehabilitate from the clinical setting to the everyday life setting. Okay, so here are a few of my favorites. Adaptive community outings. So we're going to plan small group excursions to restaurants, shopping centers, or local events. So we're going to try to put them in situations where they will be most likely in their everyday life. We're going to teach navigating social spaces. So that could be managing sensory overload, things that are going on. That could be handling unexpected situations. That could be learning social standards, like, for instance, what we talked about earlier with my client that wanted to cut the line at the restaurant we were at and then said some inappropriate things. We're also going to possibly help them with volunteering and work readiness programs. So we're going to offer clients exposure to volunteer work to build confidence in a structured social setting. Okay, and then offer pre-vocational skills. So these things might be typing if they're going to be on a computer. That might be learning customer service if they're in a customer service type position, so that they are able to reintegrate into that type of situation once they leave. Okay, leisure and wellness classes. Okay, we're going to introduce accessible fitness programs to them. And like adaptive yoga, wheelchair, Tai Chi. Chairone Fitness is another group that is serving recreational therapists, but they teach people how to use various fitness activities and interventions while they're in a wheelchair. And that could be like going to painting classes in the community, book clubs that they might want to be part of. community theater, anything you could think of that might be something that they would like to do once they leave the clinical setting. Peer mentorship or support groups. They might need connections with these support groups or mentors so that when they leave the clinical setting that they're going to be successful in everyday life. They might need different social skills, teaching, and those things might be appropriate for when they leave the hospital. And there might be groups and support groups that specifically work on that. Some recreational therapists start their own businesses and they have community reintegration as their primary focus. So what they do is they get a referral from the clinical setting into the social setting. They are helping clients deal and navigate with those changes now that they're out in the real world in everyday life. So we might even try virtual and hybrid participation before they go all out and go physically to participate in those things that they want to do. That could be something because they feel overwhelmed in social situations. Maybe they're just not confident yet. And so they might be part of virtual classes, online hobby groups, or hybrid meetups via Zoom, for instance. And then hopefully what we're going to work on is gradually transitioning them from those virtual settings to the in-person settings so that they can participate in life outside of the hospital. So that might be the goal for us. Okay, so every client's journey looks different, and that's okay. The goal is to create customized, meaningful reintegration plans to help them reconnect with the world in a way that feels right for them. Okay, so now we're going to talk about encouraging long-term engagement. Just because we're working with clients in a clinical setting and we might take them on an outing or two while they're there, doesn't mean that is going to sufficiently prepare them for dealing with the real world outside of the hospital. Okay, so sustaining engagement in activities outside of the hospital is really important, and they're going to need some support with doing that and some encouragement along that path. Okay, so here's how we can help. We're going to help clients create a personalized engagement plan, encourage clients to schedule regular outings or activities they enjoy. So things that happen, let's say, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. Use goal tracking and reflection. So they might be able to keep track of these things in a journal that they're keeping. Celebrate the small wins. Maybe there's going to be weekly call-ins with you as the therapist, just to kind of talk about their successes for the week and what they did so that you can help encourage them over that path. We might encourage family and caregiver support. So educate the loved ones on ways to support this person that we're helping back when they're part of their community. Connect clients with long-term community resources. So help them find local disability organizations or support groups that they want to be part of. That might help to encourage them along this path once they leave the clinical setting. And again, like I spoke about, some recreational therapists, their job is literally to teach a community reintegration once people leave the hospital. They started businesses to solve this need. So there could be a recreational therapist in your community that you might want to pair up with and refer clients to once they leave your clinical setting. So community reintegration isn't just about getting back out there into everyday life. It's about staying engaged, connected, and fulfilled in ways that bring joy and meaning to life. So let's do a wrap up and a recap of what we talked about today. We'll start with community reintegration. It's essential for helping clients regain independence and confidence. Key strategies include identifying client goals, overcoming barriers, real world practice, and using local resources. Recreational therapy interventions, from adaptive outings to wellness programs, help clients build skills for long-term success. And sustained engagement, so engagement over a period of time through goal setting, peer support, and ongoing participation and meaningful activities can help people to work on honing in those skills that they're learning. Okay, so that's it for week number 11. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you found this episode helpful. Whether you're a recreational therapist that works in the clinical setting, working with clients that need to be rehabilitated back to the community, or you're one of those recreational therapists that works in the community sector that is specifically dealing with community reintegration from those clinical settings. Hopefully you found something useful from this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Next week, we're going to talk about adaptations for physical disabilities. So things that we can implement for people who have physical limitations or barriers. Okay, so guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you can continue getting these resources every week in your YouTube feed as well as your email box. And as always, recreational therapists, I always like to end on this note: stay classy.